Yes.
I finally caught it. I finally caught it before I started. Thank you. So, thank you for joining me. Happy Sunday. If you are joining me, let me know where you are joining me from. Let me know that you're there. Tell me in the chat. So, if you follow my channel, if you are a subscriber, if you are a member, you are probably expecting to do a resume review, but I have switched gears and we are going to be talking about negotiations in the entertainment industry, DJ, SAG, WGA. We're going to talk all about the strike and all that stuff because today, well, last night, I guess at like midnight or something like that, the DGA came to an agreement with the AMPTP. So we're going to talk all about that stuff. So all your strike questions, negotiations, all that stuff, I welcome them. So I was rushing around this morning. Oh my goodness. Switching gears is very, very hard. I should never do that again. But also people who submitted to the resume review, like, the procrastination is real, folks. Like, you guys waited until 12:30 today to hand them in, and I was like, what is happening? So I guess I have to be a little bit more clear on guidelines as far as you guys submitting your resumes. So if you are here with me, let me know. So we're definitely going to start talking about the strike, right? So currently WJ is on strike, and some people are like, hey, what's the big deal? There's really reality happening. There are so many people that are unemployed because of the strike. And a lot of the people out there are like, well, yeah, it doesn't really matter because more reality, then there's still going to be more jobs. But I will tell you that as someone who works in narrative, people who work in narrative don't usually work in reality. The crossover is not as much as you would think. So there's that as far as me, I'm an AD. I think I did one reality show one time, maybe, if that, in my whole career, and that was a pilot I did in LA. So when you work on reality and you work on narrative, it is very, very different. So with the strike happening, the strike has been going on for about 4 weeks now. They have been on strike since I think May 2nd. So it has been a whole month, and a lot of people are expecting it to go a lot longer. But the silver lining or light at the end of the tunnel, I guess, or midway through the tunnel, because SAG is still coming up. So the DJ was in negotiations starting June 1st, I believe. May 7th was when we started negotiating, and they ended last night, and they came to an agreement. So that was a whole period of time where they could have been talking to the WGA as well as DGA, but apparently they were not. So we have no idea. But next up is going to be SAG. SAG is going to be talking to the AMPTP next. And they start June 7th. And that is in 3 days. I think Wednesday. I think it is. My 5th, 6th. Yeah, I think on Wednesday they're going to start negotiations. And we can get into all the stuff that they're going to talk about. And artificial intelligence is definitely going to be one of those things that people are going to address. And DGA did, in fact, address this in their negotiations, which is really awesome. So I don't know. It's kind of vague. We're going to go to, it's kind of vague because it says artificial intelligence groundbreaking agreement confirming that AI is not a person and that generative AI cannot replace the duties performed by members, which is kind of vague, but also kind of broad strokes of, could umbrella a lot of different things. Who knows? So with the WGA on strike right now, and with really no end in sight, because I haven't initiated talks, and that's kind of scary because a lot of people are going to be out of work. Some people are saying August till August or September, and that is a long, long time to be out of work. And some people who are there are a lot of people in the community as far as crew members go that are saying, you should have been responsible to have, a nest egg or a financial bubble or, backup or whatever to, at least 6 months in it, just to pay for those types of situations. Because when you're freelance, you're not guaranteed any work all the time. You're not guaranteed to be on a season over and over again. So who knows, right? It is so, I guess, just you're guessing, and you're really taking a risk when you're freelance. And even if you work for CBS, NBC, any of these things, Netflix, whatever, you are not with a company. You are employed by them for a period of time, and then when that season's over, or that episode is over, then that's it. Everyone's freelance, basically, is in my eyes, unless you're working and you're the top tier with that company. It's very rare to be a part of the company. I think that's a really big misconception, really, with a lot of people who are getting into film. They think that they're going to be I'm going to work for this company. And I definitely thought this myself when I first started, is that you think that you are going to be a part of a company. You're going to stick with that company for the next many years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. I mean, back in the day, someone would be with you for like 30, you would be with a company for like 30 years, which is kind of crazy. Right now, that's like not the case. I never wanted that to be my life. I wanted definitely variety. I wanted to work for different companies. So everyone's freelance. And if you are freelance, the argument is if you are freelance, you need to make sure you're saving to save yourself when these situations come up. Strike, work gets dry, all that stuff. So a lot of people, the argument is with, saving enough and there not being jobs and this really affecting everyone way too much is they have been preparing for the strike way before they went on strike May 2nd. So the studios and all of that. Oh, yeah. So I got a question in the chat. Yeah. So a tentative deal was made with DGA, not with the WGA. So the WGA is still on strike. Just to make that clear, WGA is still definitely on strike. But so with a lot of people preparing for the strike, less and less shows were initiated, which definitely affected the amount of work that was going into LA, New York, and all in the third area as well. Right now, Atlanta is so slow, and New York is so slow, LA is so slow, and even it's affecting Canada as well. Even though WGA is covering the U.S., the work in all those areas is slowed down so much even before they even started negotiating. Like even before it was approaching, they're like, we know that turmoil is coming and the writers are not going to have it. So everyone kind of was expecting this. I mean, in my video, my WJ video, when I talked about like when they were on strike before and why they might strike again, like that was made a couple weeks before the negotiations started, right? And then them going on strike, and they started negotiations March 20th, I believe. So way before March 20th, people were preparing for this in like last summer. So a lot, like they were stockpiling scripts as much as they could, all completed scripts. So many things were like put in action even before with anticipation for the strike happening. So this is affecting a lot more people and a lot longer than just the strike itself happening. Like, okay, they're on strike for the past month. It's been more effective since the past month. Like, I'm going to be honest, like work has been very, very dry for myself. And there was like, normally shows in New York, like last year around this time, it'd be like 80 something shows. And then back in March, there were like 30 shows shooting. And now there's about like maybe 5 shows shooting in New York, which is like, that is like mind-blowing to me. Like I can't even, that's crazy. So it has definitely affected people who are working, crew members, families, all that stuff. And then also state economies, because whether people like it or not, when film comes to your state, like incentives or not, a lot of people are like, oh, the incentives, but like we hire vendors, we hire local people in that state, and we give money into like the economy of that state or the city that we're working in. So a lot of people are like, there's a lot of people who are anti-film, which is like, that's mind-blowing to me, because I mean, state economies are losing tons and tons of money. And then I don't want to get too political because that is not my channel. That's not what we're talking about. But the only reason why I talk about it is because film shooting in a state and state laws do like affect filming, and Georgia's a perfect example of this. The abortion laws and all that, like some of their productions definitely were pulled out of that state because they did not agree with what they passed in that state. So politics do affect filming, whether people realize it or like it or not. So I just want to get into the DGA, like these deal points, the DGA, so this is a tentative deal, and the reason why it's a tentative deal, like they agree, this is the agreement that they made, but it's tentative because now these deal points are going to go to the national board of the DGA, and they're going to approve this deal. So like they have to put their stamp of approval on it, but either way, they've come to an agreement, which is great because WJ has not. So wage and benefits, now this, and then in this article, this information right here comes from Deadline, that article that came out just last night, and they keep saying historical, groundbreaking, and me being a DGA member, I can say that these are definitely true. The fact that they're saying groundbreaking and historical is kind of a big deal. And I wouldn't say they're being dramatic because I think it's pretty accurate. So just starting with wages and benefits, groundbreaking gains in wages and benefits, a 5% increase. And that is crazy because we usually stick with 3% increase. And we've done 3% increase in wages just to kind of keep up with inflation. But the fact that this year is 5%, I'm like, I'll take it. I will take a 5% increase, which is like, that is very, very groundbreaking because it has never happened. It's like always just been 3%. The streaming residuals, dramatic programs, maybe SVOD, securing a new residual structure to pay foreign residuals. The result is a 76% increase in foreign residuals for the largest platforms. So the residuals for a 1 hour episode will now be roughly $90,000 for the first 3 exhibition years. That's a lot. That's a big, big increase, because you would get residuals as far as, things distributed in the US or other rights, but for international global streaming residuals, that was kind of like off limits. So that and you would get like pennies. Like, I have heard stories upon stories about people getting pennies when it comes to their residual checks. So like they would get like 6 cents. Like the check and the stamp was more expensive than the actual residual check that you got. So that is something like, maybe this might help. Maybe this might help as far as like getting those penny checks. Like I've talked to so many people and they've really gotten 1 cent checks, 2 cent checks. Like, why even bother printing that check, really? Like, I feel like that if it would just, they like, usually when you get paid from like YouTube or Google AdSense or Amazon affiliates, they have like a threshold. And then like once you reach that threshold, they would like release the funds, which I feel like I would totally be down with that. It would make more sense. Like why do I have to, like 1 cent, 3 cents is just kind of, no. So artificial intelligence, like I covered before, like they did like address that, which is nice to put that in there, because we don't know where artificial intelligence is going. And a lot of people are getting real shaken up about artificial intelligence as far as like, oh, they're going to replace writers, they're going to replace directors, and then they're going to replace actors. Now, CGI, if you think about it, is really an animation and cartoons animation, all that stuff. And I think as far as animation goes, like you are taking the actor out of it, but also you still need voice actors. But now they can generate voice acting for those types of things, because the technology is getting better and better. And we'll get into the SAG thing soon. So artificial intelligence, the fact that was addressed is kind of, I think that's a huge deal. The fact that it was just addressed, because it's addressed now maybe for the first time, and then next time in the next 3 years when we go to negotiate again, then we'll say, okay, we can get more specific, because then the technology has advanced enough for everyone to kind of like, okay, this is what it's like, this is what we've been doing with it, and we're going to edit, or, we're going to change some things based on what we've learned in the last 3 years. Because everyone has a 3-year contract. And I got this question the other day where it's like, oh, how come they don't have 10-year contracts? Well, in 10 years, so many things can change, right? That like 10 years, that's a lot of the environment of filmmaking could change massively. So I think I like the whole 3-year thing. So non-dramatic programs, and this was actually kind of surprising to me, established the industry's first ever terms and conditions for directors and their teams on non-dramatic, like variety and reality. This has not really been covered like almost ever. So that is kind of a huge, huge deal. Improved residuals for the first time, associate directors and stage managers. Now, stage managers have never really gotten anything. They've gotten like the shit end of the stick like for so long. So high budget AVOD terms and conditions achieved the industry's first ever terms, creative rights, protections, working conditions, residuals for scripted dramatic projects made for free to the consumer streaming, such as Freebie, Tubi, Roku. Now I watch Tubi. I feel like that's my hack when I want to watch something that's like not Hulu and I don't have to pay for it. And Tubi is definitely something I always watch, and no one ever talks about Tubi, but I watch Tubi all the time, which I'm glad, because they have a lot of advertising there. So it's good that they're tapping into those free to consumer type streaming platforms, because that's never been covered either. So these are some things that are first time evers. There's a lot of first time evers in this agreement. Feature directors, historic first-time compensation for the month of soft prep. Now, soft prep is prep before actual pre-production starts, and this is kind of interesting, and maybe some people don't know that, but when you're directing, you are going into like, you start to break down the script and figure out like what you want to do, and that is time consuming, and so many years have gone by where directors haven't been really compensated for that. So I think that's a huge thing that is like a win for the directors as far as like feature directors. That's amazing, because you start going into prep, like you really start going into prep way before pre-production really starts. And if you really want something to go, I don't know, the vision to be clear and it to be more cohesive, I feel like that soft prep period needs to be paid for, because, you have to somehow give somewhere where like, yes, I'm working on this thing, where you can't really work on something else when you're working on, especially directors. They have their hands on everything, of course, right? Episodic directors, for paid TV, SVD episodic directors won expanded paid post-production creative rights. Now, from what I've heard, directors were only paid for like 4 days of post-production. And you could be, like, you were allowed a certain amount of notes, a certain round of notes. I think it was like 2 rounds of notes or something like that. And I feel like for an episode that you shoot for 9 days and you prep for 9 days, to only get 4 days of post-production is kind of crazy. So I like that gain was there. Reduction in hours. Now it definitely affects me, and I'm so glad that this is in there. Now there's been a few, not debates, but I think me and other ADs have talked about this a little bit today. And the reduction in hours, unprecedented reduction in the length of the assistant director's day by 1 hour. Now that is huge for me, because as a second, and it's different for second ADs versus first ADs, but as a second AD, I can work 16 hours and I get 1 day rate. For example, if I'm a second and I'm day playing, I could get $900. Let's just say that the estimated $900 for that day for 16 hours. But I can work 15.9 hours and I still get that same amount. But as soon as I hit that 16.1, then I get a double day, which is, I mean, if you ask me, that's crazy. I will gladly take a double day. And a double day does mean, so that means I get $1,800 once I go over 16 hours. But they've decreased that to 15 hours, and for first ADs, it's 13 hours. So the fact that the first AD is 13 hours, now first AD makes way more money than a second AD. And the fact that now they've gone to 13 hours, and like talking about that, and when I was talking to a first AD about this, I kind of was like, oh, I really thought it was going to be turnaround. And this is where the argument comes in. Like, I thought I was going to get longer turnaround, which means I would get 10 hours of 9 and not get just instead of working 16 hours, I can work 15, and then that's when my double day would start. This all gets really complicated when you start thinking about like DGA stuff, and when you're a set PA and you're becoming an AD, there are so many different rules that you have to learn to figure out if you're paid correctly. So the fact that now my day gets down to 15 hours and the first AD gets down to 13 hours, well, now that definitely would affect the crew as far as like, when the first AD when their day starts at crew call, their day ends at camera wrap, but then you still have everyone like wrapping out for an hour, like crew, PAs, other ADs, they'll wrap out for another hour. So if they stop the first AD at 13 hours, that means max would be 14 hours for everyone else, which is great. Or like, okay, they want to pay the first AD more, they want to pay them an extended day, and they're just going to keep going and keep going. It's just going to be so much more money to do that. So, and that's the thing. It's like you put on more money, you tack on more money for this thing. It's supposed to be a hindrance on the production. You do want them to spend so much money, right? So you're trying to have an avoidant thing where it's like, hey, let's avoid this hour, because then you're going to pay a whole bunch of things to the ADs and all that stuff. So I think that is really great. For me, I'm happy to work only 15 hours. Or at least get a double. Like, there's been so many days where I've worked over 16 hours and so many days I've worked over 15 hours. So hopefully, but it's not about making more money for me. It's about at least just going home and not working 20 hours. I don't want to work 20 hours. And I think a lot of people who are in the union are like, yes, overtime. Yes, definitely going to get overtime, because then I get all this money, right? So if a show wraps all the time, every single day, on time, every day, then that union crew member is not going to get that much money, right? They're like thinking about the big dollars. So some people want to work 18, 19, 20 hours. You're crazy. Like, I'd rather work something around the realm of like 10, 11 hours a day. I mean, if I could work an 8-hour day, that'd be amazing. But then I feel like we don't really get anything done. But when I work a 10-hour day, I feel definitely way more refreshed than working a 15-hour day consistently, or even a 12-hour day consistently. So I'm all about the reduction in hours. And the fact that this is in there was brought up to me that it could be the next time we negotiate, we can keep lowering it, which maybe, who knows? We don't know where the future could go with negotiations in the future. So the next one is safety. Achieved concrete safety advancements, including the first ever pilot program to require the employment of dedicated safety supervisors, expanded safety training programs for both directors and their teams, and the ban of live ammunition on set. I'm really glad this is put in place. Now, I've seen safety supervisors or safety officers on certain sets, on certain productions, working for certain networks. Like, for example, I think NBC Universal has someone that is there for safety. And if it is a safety concern, and this is like outside of COVID, this is, could be anything really, stunts, fights, whatever the case may be. Like, if you feel unsafe, then you can contact that person. So it's good that if it is union-wide, then all the shows have to have it if there are union members on it, if the DJ members are on it. If a DJ signatory show, then they're going to have that on there. So a lot of this is really, really great. I'm here for the 5% increase, and I'm also here for that, like, 1 hour reduction in my day. That is amazing. So SAG is the next one to negotiate with AMPTP, while WGA is still waiting in the wings, unfortunately. And some of the things that I've heard SAG talk about now, just so you are clear on where SAG is at right now, they're going to start their talk June 7th. They're going to start talks with the AMPTP June 7th, and they have already put to the membership if they can authorize a strike, even before they've stepped into negotiating. So that is, they're coming out with guns blazing. They're not messing around. They're really going for it this time. And I don't think I've ever seen like the atmosphere around SAG and negotiating this fierce. And maybe I'm just paying more attention to it, but I've definitely had more and more people talk as far as actors go. Like actors are telling me like, yes, we want this. Now, what I will say about SAG is I think a lot of people are like, well, actors make millions and millions of dollars. Now, those are your like top 1% of actors who are, your A-listers who are like superstar. Like those are the exception. You have to think about the other people in SAG who are really like, there's like someone told me like 3,000 to 5,000 actors that you have no idea who they are, but they make a living being an actor, whether it's doing voiceovers, commercials, all different types of stuff. Anything you see, that person, you don't know who they are, but they're definitely in something. Like, even if you're like your pharmaceutical commercials or infomercials, like there's so many things that involves an actor that doesn't include A-list your superstar Hollywood actor. So this is for those people who are like regular actors just trying to make a living that they're acting and they're doing something else too. So this goes beyond those crazy mega million contracts. And I know that most shows, they do have those superstar actors where it does take up a huge amount of the budget. And I've been on so many productions where you have 5 or 6 really well-known actors. The cast are really well-known, and all of them have like $1 million. And your budget for the whole season is, or maybe for the whole 6 episode or limited series, it's going to be $15 million. And then like the cast have taken half of that budget, which has happened more than once, 100%. So cast does get a lot of money, but we're talking about all the other folks who are involved. Like in SAG covers, background actors, stand-ins, not just your principal cast, but people who are just going to be under the SAG blanket, and also after it covers like theater as well. So it's not just your top tier Hollywood actors. So money, SAG wants the AMPTP to provide better compensation benefits for its members. I mean, yes, right? Because I don't know much about their pension or benefits, but if they're talking about that straight away, where benefits, like that tells me that they have a lot to cover. Current residual payments don't reflect the value of member contributions. According to the union, they undercut by inflation and by a streaming ecosystem through which producers pay less residual income than traditional exhibition models. So yes, that they're having the same residual problem as the WGA and the DGA, 100%. So they're like, we need to get this up to speed because streaming services are making tons and tons of money. We are not getting we're not getting our fair share of that. So the union is requesting that the AMPTP provide protections for members against misuse of artificial intelligence, as well as a definition of acceptable use of the technology, which is good because the DGA has kind of maybe, I would say, spearheaded or kind of created a path for them to cover this a little bit. So I think that was good that the DGA went in and was like, we're going to cover this, AI is not a person, and you can't fill a slot that a person would fill with AI. So I think that this is great that they're bringing this up. Self-tapes. Now, self-tapes, from what I've heard from the acting community, has been a huge problem because it's like the amount of hours that you're going to take to do self-tapes and then submit them, and then all the requirements they want you to do as far as like submitting your tape to a certain role or whatever has a lot more time consuming. Also, outside of self-tapes, let me just cover self-tapes before I get into auditioning, because I've heard another thing about auditioning that was quite interesting. So without regulation regarding self-tape audition, SAG alleges that performers currently face an unfairly arduous casting process, which I think I agree, because sometimes casting is bananas. I'm sorry. Like, casting is like, I do not envy actors whatsoever. Like, I definitely feel for you. I feel for you, all the actors out there. The shift to the burdensome and unreasonable demanding self-tape auditions means that our members are working harder than ever, forced to take on audition costs that have always been the responsibility of casting and production, the union statement reads. So it used to be like, and the self-tapes came about because of COVID, right? Because I needed to figure out a way to get people to see their auditions without actually bringing them into a crowded room and line them up in a building or whatever. So self-tapes now, it like just became easier to do, so they started requiring them to do it. So now they're talking, it doesn't really talk about on this list really, is auditioning. They might bring up in talks how they want to be paid to audition, which I believe someone told me that they used to bring that up in negotiations, and it didn't go anywhere, and they gave that up for something else, because during negotiations and bargaining, like, you're kind of like, okay, what is something I can gain, but maybe I can't get everything, compromise. Unfortunately, compromise, you can't get everything, but they, actors spend a lot of time auditioning, and the fact that they can audition, and then not get anything is time consuming, and then that failure, getting comfortable at fair as an actor is a whole other thing that I definitely, if you want to learn about failure and how failure is going to affect you and how you can overcome failure, become an actor. You will get told no way more times than you will ever expect in your life. So self-tapes, them kind of falling back on the COVID and relying on self-tape so much is something. And I think self-tapes kind of got crazy, and like the requirements, and like you have to do certain lighting and you have to have certain positioning. It really is like way more time consuming, but it's time consuming because in an audition, you would walk into a room, take your 10 or 12, 15 seconds or however long they would let you audition for this, and then they send you on your way. But with self-tapes, you have the power to keep doing it until you're happy with what you're able to give. So it's kind of, you're editing yourself, and the longer you're taking on self-tapes, I could say that maybe that might be on the actor, right? Because you're trying to do your best audition in your self-tape, and you can control what you submit, because you're not going to submit garbage, right? So that's kind of where we are with SAG. I don't know what's going to happen with SAG. I have no idea what's gonna happen with SAG at all when they start June 7th. I'm glad that the DGA has reached an agreement with the AMPTP, and I am happy with the reduction of 1 hour in my day and 5% increase. Happy with that as well. I think I'm just really, I don't know when the WJ and the AMPTP is going to start talking again. I have no idea, and everyone is basically waiting for that to happen. And once it happens, I'll definitely give everyone an update. But SAG is coming out with guns blazing, so I'm very interested to find out how talks go with them. If you have any questions, let me know in the chat. Happy to answer anyone's questions. I am going to take a drink, so I've been talking for like half an hour. Curio! I'm going to go to the chat real quick. If you have questions before, because I'm about to end this live stream because I have nothing else to talk about. But yes, unionized set PAs, like that is something that has been something that it has been like, I think for the past 20 years, people have been trying to unionize set PAs. Now, with set PAs being in the union, they have done it in reality TV. They get meal penalties, they get like reality and commercial, it depends on what you're working on, but they get the same rights as every crew member on the set. Now, the only ones who have not caught up yet are people who are narrative, like DGA or those big union narrative shows have not caught up to that. And what's happened with set PAs is that it has been brought, and now multiple people have worked with union specialists. Like there are people who are like, yes, when you want to build a union, there are like specific people. It's like the acronym is definitely like is lost to my mind right now. It's like not there, but there's like a union, national union something. If someone knows what I'm talking about, put it in the chat. You know what I'm talking about. It's like the National Labor Board or something like that. But you can go to them, and then there are people who can take you through the steps of getting a union. And I actually was in talks with a couple of people and this person that was our representative, and they told us the steps. And like where it falls apart is because PAs don't stay PAs for so long, so it's kind of you have to get the amount of people who are going to be set PAs, right? Like what is the basic ballpark number of how many set PAs there are in New York narrative film at any one time, right? And that just depends on the amount of shows that are shooting, unfortunately, right? And then you have to get a vote to all them people to actually say, hey, I do want a union for us. But by the time all this goes through, some of those PAs are not PAs anymore. They're in different departments, and that's where it always falls apart, because it has been brought up to the Teamsters. And the Teamsters, from what I've heard, and this is, I mean, I love the Teamsters. I don't fuck with Teamsters. But I've heard that they denied their request, or at least, something to even start talking that the PAs be in the Teamster union. And also IATSE as well has denied the set PAs being in IATSE. So, but then you have to build your own union, which is that's a whole undertaking that takes a little bit longer than joining another union, right? Because locations PAs and assistant location managers, for example, in New York, assistant location managers are in 817 in New York. They're in the Teamster union, right? And then you have parking PAs did their own union. And then you have the location managers are in the DGA. So all of those things, like they joined other unions that would which I know doesn't make sense to me why location managers are in the DGA, but location managers become UPMs and UPMs are in the DGA. I don't know. I don't understand, but either way. So yes, Kirill, I'm with you on this as far as get set PAs some rights. I think the main thing for set PAs is a living wage more than $15, that's the minimum wage right now in New York City for set PAs. But more and more shows, which is great. Like NBC has put a policy in place where they will not pay anyone lower than $17.25 regardless of the position, right? And then other shows have paid $19 an hour. Like Manifest, that ended, but for 2 seasons, I think a year ago, they were paying $19 an hour, okay? And more people are paying more. And the show that I just did, we paid, I think, $18 an hour. Oh my goodness, I don't remember what I just, the pilot I shot in April, we paid, I think, $18 an hour. So we paid over the minimum wage, which is I was glad because it was a one-day shoot. It was crazy. I was happy to give the PAs a little bit more money per hour. And we worked a crazy long day, so their overtime was bananas, which was great. That's what I like. It's if we're going to do a hard day, and I know it's going to be a hard day, I want at least a little bit more money for them. But oh my goodness, I don't have water with me, guys. I'm so unprepared today. Okay, but so yeah, unionizing the set PAs is actually a lot more challenging than, I just don't know why. It always falls apart. I am there. But outside of minimum wage and a living wage for PAs, it's their turnaround is crazy. It's sometimes I have been a PA where I've worked 20 hours and had 3 hours sleep and had to go right back to holding to get background ready the earliest in the morning. It was nuts. I remember that was all the way in Brooklyn. I lived in New Jersey at the time too, and it was just a lot. It was a lot. I remember just being I can't believe this show is doing this. and maybe, okay, it's my fault for living in Brooklyn, but we were so far deep Brooklyn, it wouldn't have mattered where I came from if I even lived in the boroughs, but I digress. So to get to it, I want to welcome Uraj, because he is a new member to Beyond Film School, so I'm happy to have you who joined this month. Yes, thank you so much. If you want to be a member, I have channel memberships, and I have a video coming out. It's going to be released today to my members, but everyone else will be seeing it on Wednesday. It's going to be released on Wednesday. It's covering the production coordinator, and I worked with Jennifer and Galano really hard, a couple of notes back and forth, and I think I really made like a very interesting, very like detailed video about the production coordinator that you guys are probably going to love. That I'm just glad that I'm able to have a series that talks about something other than set positions, because no one knows about the production office. So my channel members, thank you for being here. Amanda also, you are also a channel member, which I'm grateful for. And let's see, my sister's fiance asked me about the strike and pointed out that networks can use non-union writers to write for shows and films. He asked if non-union writers are hired to write. Why is the WJ answer? So this is weird. Okay, so networks can hire a non-union writer. But if they do, it looks really bad on the network. And it's like, we say, no. We say, tis. We don't like that. We poo-poo that, right? So on top of that, the fact that it looks bad. Now, that non-union writer, and it goes to them, because the reason why you really have to be really desperate to cross picket lines and to become a scab. And if you cross picket lines, as far as like, now crossing picket lines where like shows are still shooting, and crossing picket lines, that shows have been shut down because of the strikes. Like I'm here for it. I like support them no matter what. But if my show is still shooting, and as an AD, and then the DJ comes out with a statement that we support the writers, but then you're still going to work, it's like, well, I'm not being the writer, but you're still working on a show that employs the writer. It gets kind of weird, right? I guess people are trying to work as much as they can. But as someone who's going to be a non-union writer, and they cross the picket line and they decide to write for that show that has writers on strike, from what the WGA says, and they have like a written statement on it, that if they cross picket lines and they become a writer on one of those shows, they cannot join the WGA ever. Like, they are banned from membership of the WGA, which prevents them from being protected from the WGA in the future. So if they are writing for this network, when this is all said and done and everything's back to normal, they cannot join the WGA. If they, and they're going to find out. It's like, if they find out that so-and-so was writing on this show as a non-union writer, they will not be able to gain membership from the WGA, which is like, as a writer, I feel like that's a really big aspiration and a really big goal for a lot of people. So I would think that that writer shouldn't be doing that, which I don't know. I don't know what you guys think, but if I were a writer, and I feel like I would aspire to be part of the WGA, just like me as an AD, like I aspire to be in the DGA. Like that's just like that, maybe that is a goal that some people just don't have, but I know I did. So for someone to write for a show that is on strike is like really bad for them, more so than the network themselves. The network can do whatever they want, really, and it just be like, they could get fined or whatever, and the union will get like pissed and stuff, but it doesn't really affect the network so much as it does the person that's going to be doing that writing, crossing the picket lines. So also, Amanda, you also had, I'm trying to get to your questions again. He asked if non-union writers are hired. Yes. Why is So the WGA is on strike for a number of reasons. They could not reach an agreement with the AMPTP, and it has to do with like residuals, addressing AI. It had to do with mini writers' rooms, because if you guys know about mini writers' rooms, what was happening now, and like I have more in the video, and it explains it probably way more eloquently in that video that I made in March, that explains mini writers' rooms. And what was happening is that, like, you in a traditional TV setting, you would get together, write like the pilot, then you make sure the pilot was like tip-top shape, shoot the pilot, then like, I don't know, workshop it. You would give it to the network and say, hey, what do you think of this? And then maybe you have focus groups on that pilot, and based on that feedback, you would decide to order the whole season, or order like 11 episodes, and then you would go, and then depending on how the ratings would go, and you'd order more episodes for that season. And a whole season on a network television show is like 20, anywhere from 18 to 23 episodes. Like your Law & Orders, NCIS, like FBI, all those are like 18, 19, 20 episode seasons. So, but then you have like your Netflix and your streaming services, your Apple TV, which, by the way, I wanted to say about Apple TV. Apple TV does not pay above minimum wage. ever. They don't even give their key PA more money. So not to talk shit about Apple TV, but like Apple TV does not give more money to PAs, and they refuse to do it for whatever reason. They as a network have agreed that they're like, no, we're not paying more to the key PA. Like they've definitely, I've worked on a couple Apple TV shows, and I asked like, how much are we paying our PAs? And they were like, no, minimum wage, they will not do it, like no matter what. So, but your streaming services like Apple TV, Netflix, Hulu, all that, they are, oh gosh, I totally lost my train of thought. What was I doing? Oh, so the minis, they have shorter seasons, right? You have like these limited series, like 4 episodes, 6 episodes, 8 episodes, 10 episodes, 13 episodes. It used to be like you would have network where it'd be like 20 episodes, but then like you'd have like a streaming service show, and that would be 13 episodes. But then it's like down to 10 episodes. And now more and more, even on HBO, you have like Barry that's like 8 episodes. And then, let's see, like I was surprised if anyone's watching Beef on Netflix. That's a really good series. I just finished it last night. I thought it was great. So I recommend Beef on Netflix, just saying. But like that was 10 episodes, and I was like, oh, I thought for sure it was going to be 8 episodes. So what's happening in these small series and small seasons is that they will have these writers, like maybe 4 or 5 writers in a room with the showrunner, and they'll say, okay, so you're going to get together and write 5 episodes. So you're going to write the whole scope. You're going to write the entire storyline. You're going to write all the character arcs. You're going to write the whole thing. You're going to write the whole season before we even shoot anything. So all that work goes into that. And then like the rates are different because they weren't paying the writers as much as they would while they were shooting. And then they weren't getting paid as much, nearly as much as that they would in the traditional sense. So they were getting away with a lot of material, but then they weren't compensating them fairly. So that's a huge reason why that people are on strike, as far as the WJ is concerned. So the writers have a bit of a bigger hurdle than the DGA and SAG, I think, as far as that's concerned. Like also the auditions, that's going to be like paying for auditions. They're going to be really particular about people getting paid for auditions. So Amanda, it was a 45-minute debate conversation. Like, yeah, no, when you start talking about that stuff, like you really get into like, well, what if this? And I think this, what if that? If I were a writer, if I wasn't a writer, if I were a producer, because I like playing that devil's advocate of if I were a producer, what would I do? How would I try and save money? Because then if you think about it, the AMPTP, which I was totally not aware of, was just kind of an entity in the 80s, 1980s. It came to be in the 1980s. And I was like, I thought they, for some reason, were a longer standing like entity. And they weren't. I was like totally shocked by that. I don't know why I was shocked by that, but the fact that they only started coming up in the 1980s, and then they became a body of like, cause all the networks were like, well, why? Because what usually would happen is that the WGA and the DGA would go to like the networks in each one, and they would have to like talk to each network. But then as time went on, more and more networks or studios were coming about, and then okay, they were like, oh, we got to get this together, and we're going to be one entity now. So I don't know if that's like it's weird to. Maybe it's more organized that way, and then like all across the board, it makes it easier for all the other unions to negotiate with AMPTP. But I love to kind of say like, what would I do if I were a producer, or what would I do if I was in that position? Because all these studios, and people tend to forget about this, all these studios are publicly traded. A lot of them are publicly traded, and if you're publicly traded on the stock market, you are, I guess, beholden to your shareholders, right? And if you are not producing profits quarter after quarter, and then you're losing money, and then you're going to lose your shares, you're going to lose the stock drops and all. It's like the shareholding part of the networks and the studios is very, very much more complicated, and a lot of people don't want to hear that argument. But if they're not cutting a profit, and then the people are like, you need to pay your writers more money, it doesn't make sense in the producer's mind. It's like, okay, well, we have to do this. And if we can't produce a profit, but then we have to give the writers more money, then the profit margin goes down even more. But then what you also have to think about is all the bonuses that all these like crazy corporate CEOs and whatever, all the studio heads and all the presidents or whatever of these studios and networks, they're getting crazy bonuses. They're getting crazy cuts, and they get a lot of money for meeting certain, certain like tiers and stuff like that. They're getting crazy money. And I just saw an article, which I'm going to post on my Instagram or my TikTok, that Netflix shareholders denied the bonus structure for all the corporate heads for Netflix. And I was like, yes, I feel like this is a step in the right direction of like not, because they're getting like millions and millions of dollars as their bonuses at the end of the year. Like those millions of dollars could definitely like that. And they already get paid so much money on top of that. Like their regular salary is fucking insane. And then they're like, their bonuses are insane. And this is like one person. But then that like one person's bonus could be definitely spread out to like 4, 5, 6, 10 writers. And Adam Conover, he has a really good channel, and he's I don't want to say that the figurehead of the WGA, because he is a writer as well. Like he explains this very well. Like some of these couple of $1 million that are giving to the bonuses of these people can cover like all these writers, that whatever we're asking for, this is all the money we need, and that covers it. And without even touching your profit margin. So I'm getting like deep into the structure of like business and studios and stuff like that. I'm gonna get back to the questions. Okay. Crazia? I don't know. Crazy? I have no idea. Am I pronouncing this right? You need to phonetically spell this for me. Okay. A little off topic. How often are BG actors upgrade to speaking parts on set in New York? Okay. So this is a good question. I like this question. So thanks for your question. So with BG, I think that you are more likely when you work on movies to be upgraded. And with the SAG requirement on TV shows only being 25 SAG actors and then the rest are non-union, but with features, if you're shooting a feature in New York, then you have to have 85 people who are SAG. And a lot of the times, a lot of those, you can't fill 85, SAG actors in those roles. So you being non-union, part of that 85, you would get a waiver. So that's something that's like not what exactly your question, but like a lot of people are worried about getting their waivers because you need 3 vouchers or waivers or whatever. You need 3 things to get into to SAG as a BG actor. And as far as speaking roles, it happens all the time, a lot more often in movies, because the director is going to be like, you know what, I'd rather have this person say this. Like I worked on a movie and I think someone got upgraded like at least once a week, and it was like a 6-week project. So like BG actors got upgraded way more often on that movie than I've been. Like I worked on The Equalizer for a full season, and I think one person got upgraded that entire season. The entire season was 8 months, I believe, and then the feature that I worked on was 6 weeks, and then like 6 or 7 people got upgraded. So it really depends. I think your chances of getting upgraded are much more likely to happen on a movie than in TV, just to give you some perspective. Okay, so non-traditional life. I wonder if that happens to PAs when they are shooting in states where the minimum wage is lower. Here in Pennsylvania, we are only at $7.25. Holy crap. $7.25 is still happening in Pennsylvania. That is fucking bananas. Okay, and also, I think in Georgia, it's also $7.25 because they have the federal minimum wage, which is like stupid. Like it's so low, unless you mean union rate minimum. So I wonder if it happens to PAs. So when I was talking minimum wage, and this is interesting because, okay, so it's kind of weird. So minimum wage, I do mean state minimum wage, right? So in New York City, the city minimum wage in the boroughs of New York City is $15 an hour. In the entire state, I think it's like 10 or something like that. It's not the same as New York, but it is coming up in other cities in New York State, not just New York City. So back when I was working on Enemy Within in 2018, we were given $15 an hour to match. Was that? I think, yeah, it was like $12. I can't remember, but either way, we were shooting in New Jersey, and the New Jersey state minimum wage is way lower than New York. But because we're in the entertainment industry and we have to be competitive with New York, we were matching that state minimum as well. Which, if you're working an indie feature or or just like something that is, just they're doing payroll, it's indie film, it's not union, they only have to pay you minimum wage, and they don't have to worry about any other state. So if you're working in New Jersey, I have no idea what the New Jersey minimum wage is right now. I think it's like $11.50 an hour or something crazy like that. So if their network, they'll match, and it's, for example, like Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey all being in the same area will match like the competitive rate, which is $15 an hour in New York City. So they're going to match it. I don't know if that answers your question, but minimum wage, when I say minimum wage, I do mean the state minimum. So, but places like, if you're shooting in Philly, or Philly or Pittsburgh, your state minimum wage is that, but then your city minimum wage might be a little different. I don't know what area you're living in Pennsylvania, but yeah, non-traditional life. I feel like I've seen you before on the stream. Thank you for joining me again. So today, I wonder how much delay to begin shooting season 2 series. So here's the thing. It's June 4th today. And a lot of shows would already start the writer's room right now for network television for the fall season. So I think like The Equalizer was supposed to come back in late July. A lot of shows like your Law and Orders and all that, they would start shooting after the 4th of July. But they would already be writing right now. So, but the fact that they're not writing right now, and who's to say they didn't write a couple first episodes from, last season? They could have, because I know some shows did in fact do that. They wrote the first and second episode so they could shoot the next season on time, which a lot of shows didn't do that. So they already should be in the writer's room, and they're not. So there's that. All right, so there is definitely going to be a delay, I think, and reality show is like kicking up. I've seen so many commercials for different reality shows just popping up. So just know that reality shows going to be shoved down your throat, guys. Reality shows are going to be like, pfft. And this is the other thing. So the upfronts, if you guys don't know what upfronts are the schedule for the fall, for the next season, right? So in the fall, the CBS, NBC, and like the networks gave out their like what the schedule would be. Like Equalizer is on 9 now instead of 10 on Sundays, or instead of having something on CBS like The Amazing Race and Survivor is usually on Wednesday nights, and it's like 8, 9, and something, and like a network narrative show comes on at 10 or something like that. But now like Survivor and The Amazing Race are now slated for 90-minute shows. So instead of an hour, we're all going to get 90-minute Survivor, which I'm a big fan of Survivor. I don't know if you watch Survivor, let me know, because then me and you going to have a connection, and I love that. So I watch Survivor. I love it. So I'm all about a 90-minute episode of Survivor. I'm here for it. So that's interesting how it definitely they know that they're going to delay. So they're trying to like make up for it in the shows. And a lot of shows haven't been renewed as well. Some of the weaker rated shows did not get picked up, and a lot of things were just like, we're just going to try and fill the programming as much as we can for primetime television. Okay, this is what Deadline said. Members of New York State Legislature reminding the AMPTP that companies it represents are the beneficiaries of hundreds of millions of dollars in tax credits every year. This is true. And that's like the government being like, hey, assholes, you're affecting the economy a great deal. So let's get this going. But the last strike lasted 90 days. So this one's only at 30 days. So hopefully we can get this. But thank you, Amanda, for bringing that up. That's a really good point, because now the governments are like, because California is losing a ton of money. And there was an article that said that California was losing about $30 million a day, which I don't think is accurate for some reason. Like that's like, they were saying that the industry was losing that much money, which is not true. The producers were not losing that much money because the state economy is losing that much money, because tons and like so many shows are shot in LA. So many shows are shot in Los Angeles. So there is a lot as far as like the state government is concerned and the economy is concerned that is affecting tons of people outside of just like the film, like people who are actually on crew. So many things outside of that. Hello, Ruben. Hello again. Thanks for joining me on my live stream. So, non-traditional life, no, Philadelphia does not have a separate minimum wage. I live in Philadelphia, and it is low here. Holy crap. I didn't know. I thought for sure that Philly would have had a higher minimum wage. Thankfully, I have had productions match New York rates before sometimes. Yes, so it depends, because sometimes they'll start in New York or whatever, they might have, that's so good that other shows that come to Philly are doing that 15 minimum wage. Like, it really, and that's happened to me in 2021 when I was asked to work in Atlanta, and that was the first thing I did. They wanted me to be the key PA in Atlanta, and I was like, okay, if I'm going to be a PA in Atlanta, I'm going to have to get paid that minimum wage. So I looked at the minimum wage, it's like $7.15 or whatever crazy shit it is, and I told my AD, my first AD, I was like, if you hire me, I need to make sure I'm getting getting the New Jersey, New York minimum wage. Like I have to get $15 an hour. Like I was like, I will not work this show until I have to get $15 an hour. So they matched me. Thankfully, the AD liked me enough to match that, but that's where I draw the line. I was like, I'm not gonna go to Atlanta for 6 weeks while still paying my regular rent in New Jersey, my regular bills. All the bills have not changed for me, even though I moved to Atlanta for 6 weeks for this show, right? I still have to maintain my lifestyle up here in New York, New Jersey. So I was like, I will work on this show, and I know you want me to work on this show, but I need what I would normally get in New York. So, and I was just fighting for $15 an hour. I wasn't even fighting for anything more, but even though I was a key PA, I think I could have gotten probably a couple dollars more. I probably should have asked for more, guys. Ask for more. Always ask for more. Okay, so that figure is not accurate. Ruben, what figure is not accurate? Tell me. I want to know, Ruben, tell us, give us some value, let us know. According to the Hollywood Report, the previous WH strike lasted 100 days, and 2007, 2008, a stoppage. Yes, right. Okay, so Ruben, you're talking about the California, the article I brought up, right? Like that article brought up a lot of controversy, and people were like, no, yes. But I mean, I don't know if like that was, I wonder what the real figure is, right? So Ruben, so I want to know, like, but California is losing a lot of money. As a state, they're losing a lot of money just because they're not shooting as much. That's fact. I don't know. It's definitely in the millions. I don't know if it's like $24 million a day, which I think that's kind of like astronomical, probably way over. But I know they are losing money, and states are definitely losing money because we're not shooting. What time is it? Oh my God, it's almost 2. Thank you guys for all participating in the chat. I really appreciate it. So I think if you guys put your, not to $24 million a day. I think I want to like look into how much money, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be like some articles out there with some accurate figures, but I think maybe it might be a little too new. But now that we've reached the 30-day mark, maybe there might be some accurate figures that they can be like, oh, this is how much money compared to last year or whatever. Like I feel like there might be something more accurate out there now. So hopefully someone's going to make those calculations. So before I wrap up this live stream, thank you so much for joining me, folks. It was kind of like, I know it's like bare bones talking about like DGA stuff and like these deal points. Like I like to nerd out on this stuff, and I'm glad you're with me because that tells me that you like to at least be informed and in like the entertainment industry. So thank you for joining me. But also, gosh, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh my goodness. I was going to tell you guys. Oh, so for next time, because I didn't do the resume reviews. Now, resume reviews, I will do, gosh, what is next Sunday? I will do definitely sometime this month. And you have time, submit your resumes, because some people send them in so late. Like, it is so late. Like some people send them to me like 15 minutes before my live stream. I'm like, oh my goodness, like, I have to like, block out information and set up like my OBS and stuff. I just need a little bit more time. So I think I definitely will give a deadline for when people need to submit them, because I just didn't before, because everyone just, quickly were doing it. So I definitely still will do a June resume review. So definitely get your resumes into me if you want to do that. Email them beyondfilmschool@gmail.com. PDF. 1 page. You guys send me more than 1 page, I'm gonna be upset. 1 page resumes, guys. Okay, so Marty asks, is it worth writing for talk shows and reality shows, and do game shows have writing teams? Oh my God, game shows? I don't know. I don't think reality. Okay, so technically reality shows don't have writers, right? Because the producers are technically writing the show based on what they shoot and what they set up and how they edit it. So I don't particularly know that reality shows don't have writing teams that you would think, not like the type that you would think that are for narrative shows, right? But also reality and game shows and talk shows are way out of my realm of what I normally work on. But when I know more about that, and I will definitely research this because now I'm curious, I will definitely let people know on my channel. Writing for talk shows, like daytime television, all that stuff, though, like daytime television, anything that has to do with like monologues and all that stuff, those do involve writers, and then they can't, okay, what does that mean? Oh, the View does have WJ writers that are working on the show, ergo the picket last week at ABC. So some people are still working on these shows. Interesting. So talk shows, I thought were covered because like nighttime television, definitely they have writers and they immediately shut down because they do the writing every day. So they shut down. So daytime television, I'm interested because I think they definitely pre-tape well in advance, but I don't know as far as like what they're shooting now for a future program, because they do shoot a little bit in advance. So Amanda, I need you to expand a little bit on what you're talking about. So what I have going on, got a lot of things happening beyond film school, guys. A lot of things. I have my Set PA class happening in August. So if you are trying to be a Set PA, I'm doing my 3rd class this year, and I don't do 3 classes, guys. I only do 2 classes a year. I'm doing a 3rd class this year. It's halfway filled, so it's like filling up fast, way faster than I ever expected. And there are some spots left in my class for August. It's going to be in New York City. Definitely want to just tell everyone, because I'm very excited. The reason why I feel like, yes, I'll do a 3rd class this year is because it's my 5-year anniversary from starting these classes ever. So this is my 5th year, like completing my 5th year, because I started in August of 2018. So this is 5 years in the making, my 3rd class this year. So I'm very, very excited. I've been doing the in-person classes, the Set PA Training class for 5 years, and it definitely has mutated and changed throughout the years. And I've gotten so much better, and like just as a teacher, as an instructor, like I'm so excited that I've reached 5 years in like teaching, and I didn't know that my Set PA class would have gotten to where it is now. And also there's an online class. If you cannot make it to New York City now, I have tons of people. Like I've gotten more and more people coming from all over the US. I have people from Atlanta, Virginia. There's someone from Kentucky, the last class. There's from Alaska, California. I'm getting more and more people from California, and I feel very, very blessed that people are coming all the way from like the West Coast and the South and Florida and all these places to come and take my course. So I'm very, very, very happy about that. But if you cannot come, then I have an online course. So that is always there for you at beyondfilmschool.com. Like definitely if you need to take an online course, if you want to get educated on how to be a Set PA, and that is there for you, and you can do it at your own pace. So Set PA class happening August, my 5-year anniversary of doing this. I'm very, very happy. And I have some workshops happening. So I guess the benefit for people who are Beyond Film School alum, they are going to have free access to these workshops. The workshops are going to be about the Key Set PA, cast PAs, the paperwork PA, and the background PA, and I think I'm missing one, oh my goodness, walkie PA. So all 5 of those positions I'm going to cover, and we're going to go real deep into each of those positions. Like what's the first thing you do in prep? What are your responsibilities? We're going to go throughout every responsibility of those positions. And people who are Beyond Film School alum, you've taken my courses, you have access to those workshops for free. But everyone outside of Beyond Film School are more than welcome to take those workshops. I'm going to post them very, very soon. I'm going to have the whole day. We're going to do one a week. We're going to cover, the key. I don't know if we're going to cover the key PA first. I think we're going to save the key PA for last, because that's a lot happening with the key PA. And it will be the longest workshop because the key PA does a lot more than people expect. We're probably going to start with like walkie PA and background, and then go into cast, and then paperwork, and then key. So we're going to cover all those positions. So if you're interested in that information will be out there very, very soon. So I have workshops, the Set PA class, the online class. So a lot is happening this year. And hopefully I have an Atlanta class happening in December. So hopefully I have an in-person Atlanta class coming. So just I'm going to put that in the ether. Hopefully that'll be coming together very, very soon. So thank you so much, guys, for joining me on the live stream. And let's see. So crazy business. I remember my dad telling me stories on the set of the Godfather films, Donnie Brasco working as a union actor. I want to hear those stories. I want to hear what it was like working on The Godfather. At a low point in my career in 2007, gone to work in a reality television as a cast wrangler on dating elimination shows. Ray J, 1 and 2, Real Enchant. Oh, okay, VHA items. I don't remember what the pay was. Yeah, you can't get me on reality shows. There's no way. I remember the reality pilot that I did in California when I worked out there was this pilot called Tiny Tots. And it was about child actors, and it was really interesting how we had to, I think we had like secret cameras in like the waiting rooms, and like how the kids talk to their actors, and then you saw how the kids talk to their parents. So we had them in the waiting rooms, and then like we saw how they interacted with their parents and how their parents talked to them, and then we had them in like the actual audition room, and how then they acted in front of like the casting director and the director. It was interesting. It was. I went from PA to camera operator somehow on that show. Don't know how, but I did, and we had to get this additional footage and like following these kids around. It was like very, very interesting how they wanted to explore the relationship of parents to kids in show business, and like how much the parents push the kid or how much the kid wants it themselves. It was an interesting concept, I would say, but it's like probably too many minors to deal with to have like a lot of I don't know, to have like a whole show about it. I'm just like have an advertisement for like fucking Tim Hortons here. But reality show is very, very interesting. I can't say that I would ever do a reality unless I was like working on Survivor. But Survivor, they have like the same ADs forever. Like I watched this last season of Survivor, and I listened to the podcast of Survivor, and they were talking about all the behind the scenes stuff. I was like, man, I would love to work on that show. Sorry, that'd probably be the only reality show I'd ever work on. So my non-traditional, congratulations on the 5-year anniversary. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. So Amanda, okay, Kelly and Mark shoot 2 shows per day. So by now they have content until mid-June and start filming content for late June, July, and mid-June if they make. Yeah. So they're shooting like way right. Okay, they have like they have like a few shows to go. Okay, I was making more money sitting on someone's desk in publicity, and then things went sideways with the strike, and I was told they're going to lay me off, and then I went to reality. I mean, you have to pivot, right? I don't know, like I can't work non-union things because I'm in the DGA, so I can't be an AD. Like I could be something else, but I can't be an AD on reality because of like union things and like guidelines are like, you're not allowed to work this thing. I'd be happy to share those stories. Thanks for the update on the strike. Yes. Thank you so much, guys. I think I'm going to end it here. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat or comment below. I definitely will answer them as best I can. And thank you, Marty, for your super thanks there. I'm glad we'll take all the donations to help. So if there's something that you want to be covered in the live stream, please let me know. I always am happy to talk about new topics, and I kind of was like, I don't want to cover strike and negotiations because I had like a WGA strike video. But I was glad to kind of like talk about SAG and DGA, and like it just came. The stars aligned together, the fact that the DJ came to an agreement last night. So I pivoted and was like, hey, I'm going to talk about this during my live stream, which I know is kind of like niche. Some people don't really care about these types of things, but I do. I know I like to nerd out about them. So if you have a live stream topic, please let me know what you would like me to discuss, and I can talk about for like at least a half an hour and then get some questions going, get like people asking questions. Would love to hear your suggestions for live streams. Go to a taping. When I did The Crew, it was live to tape, filmed at 9 a.m., edited, then aired at 1 p.m., taped 5 shows in 3 days. That's nice. AK 1 week's worth. Nice. That's pretty cool. Like they have, I feel like that's some long ass days though. Like, I don't know. So thank you so much, guys. I have a lot of things coming up, and remember channel membership. If you're trying to be a member, definitely I'm building my membership. If you have early access to all my videos. The new video production corner is coming out on Wednesday. Amanda, you're definitely going to see this video tonight because I'm going to upload it tonight. You have priority viewing of all my videos. You can actually ask me to make a video and I will make it for you. And I also have exclusive videos for my members. Like one was why I won't hire you as an AD looking at a PA, like why I would not hire you. And film interview questions. Those I have, like those are pretty good videos for like trying to give like the inside view. Also, I do when I'm on a show, I do like little like a daily things and say like, hey, this is what's happening today. Well, I can't really share with everyone, but I do share with my members. So join my channel memberships, check out my website to check out the online course, Set PA course, whatever. Happy to have all you guys supporting me. Thank you so much for joining me. And that is it for now. I shall see you next time.